So I would like to welcome all of you to today's seminar, which is co-hosted by UNU-FLORIS, which stands for the United Nations University Institute for Integrated Management of Material Fluxes and of Resources, and the Dresden University of Technology, TUD, in particular PRISMA, which is the Center for Sustainability Assessment and Policy. So Prof. Samanthi Dijkstra Silva is the Karlowitz Junior Professor for Sustainability Assessment and Policy, and she represents TU Dresden and PRISMA. Unfortunately, she cannot be here today. So I think this is the first time in a very long time that she's not here. So please accept her apologies. My name is Serena Kutsia, and I'm from UNU-FLORIS, where I'm responsible for everything related to education, including the Nexus seminar. And also today with us is Asha Verma. She's called UNU-FLORIS Zoom today, and she will help us with the technical support. You already heard her voice. Some background about the Nexus seminar. This series was established in 2015, and it features speakers, usually senior researchers, on the topics of sustainability and the resource nexus, which is the integrated management of environmental resources so that synergies and trade-offs can be identified and leveraged. Apart from the public audience, we also have students in the lecture today. They have to complete a learning diary about this lecture, and they will particularly look at these three questions. What are the three main insights? How can their and other disciplines contribute to the topic, and what did they learn about their own and other disciplines from today's perspective? And today is number 82, so it's quite a long list of lectures that we've had before. And then I will introduce Prof. Pandey in a moment. Just before we start, a brief orientation. The speaker will start with a presentation, and if you have questions for the speaker, you can post them in the question and answer section that appears in Zoom on the panel. And after the presentation, I will moderate the discussion, or I will leave it over to Prof. Pandey because he also wanted to do some interactive things. So we'll see how it goes. And there will be some interaction afterwards. And if you have any technical difficulties, please do not use the question and answer session for that, but just the regular chat, and then Asha, who is behind the scenes, will help you with that. So then, without further ado, I am glad to introduce today's speaker, Prof. Vishnu Pandey. He is a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering and director at the Center of Applied Research and Development, CARD, in the Institute of Engineering at Tribhuvan University in Nepal. Before joining the university, he was with the International Water Management Institute that many of you will know about, where he worked as a water and climate specialist. He naturally, from all that you've heard, he specializes in hydrology and water resources. And so today, he's going to share with us his insights and work in Nepal on the WEFE Nexus, Water, Energy, Food, and Ecosystem Services. Over to you, Professor Pandey. I'm very much looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Professor Serena, and the UNU-FLORIS team for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with the esteemed students at your institute, and also some colleagues I have seen who joined from outside. I had also posted online. Some of my colleagues I could see in the list as well. Let me start. I think I'm allowed to share it, right?
Yes, you should be able to.
From where actually? Let me see.
At the bottom is this green button with an arrow.
Oh, share. Okay, green one. All right.
Yeah.
I've sent a request. Okay, now I can share it. Great. Entire screen. All right. So I will be talking about institutionalization of the WEFE Nexus course in Nepal, challenges and learning. Like introduced by Professor Serena, I'm with the Institute of Engineering at Tribhuvan University at multiple roles for the last nearly 4.5 years. I'm also contributing to Water Society actively as an editor-in-chief of Journal of Hydrology Regional Studies, which is Elsevier journal with an impact factor of 4.7. I've contributed in many other government agencies in a voluntarily or maybe as a committee members like I'm also the member of Academic Council of the Tribhuvan University, Nepal, governing board of member of the Nepal Engineering Council. The tenure has been completed, and also have been contributing in other sectors. With this brief background, let me go to the content. Let me start first from your thoughts on the Nexus. Is it possible for you to share some of your understanding about the Nexus in the chat box? What do you mean by it? Why this concept matters, or what could be the benefit out of it? May I request the participant to share some of the thoughts, spare me 1 or 1.5 minutes and share in the chat box, please? I encourage for active participation actually, because it really matters.
So if the chat is deactivated, I see they can also just put it in the question and answers, and we can take it from there. Yeah.
Yeah, either way is fine. Yeah. I haven't seen any here in the chat box. Maybe colleagues are still thinking. Oh, is there something? Okay.
Now it's coming.
Q&A, I can see it. For me, the chat. Okay, all right. Connection and interrelationship. Great. Linkage among different sectors, levels, scales. That's another great idea. The study of interrelations of dimensions. I believe all the participants can see the Q&A, right? Is it?
Yes, everybody can see it.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I encourage all to see this one and to understand how other colleagues are thinking about the Nexus. We are in the very early stage of it, of course. Connections, interrelationship, linkage among different sectors, levels, and scale. Study of interrelationship of dimensions, a connection, and there are many items. The key message out of these initial ideas shared by you all means Nexus is primarily interconnections, or it connects different components. And also we try to quantify that interconnection in some or other ways, like interrelationships of, let's say, trade-offs and synergy. So this is all about Nexus. It means the action at one sector or one activity might have implication to other activities. That may be positive, may be negative. So this is the core or the crux of the Nexus concept. If we try to take a recap from Professor Serena's lecture in the last, I think, N.80, maybe earlier one, it was focused on corporate sustainability. She talked about economy, society, and environment are three pillars of sustainability, and sustainability matters to us at a planetary scale, a societal scale, and even at a business scale. That's what the one message. Second is there are planetary boundaries, very interesting concept proposed by Rockstrom et al. 2009, and their evaluation of the state was made by Richardson et al. 2023. It means it describes the limits to the impacts of human activities on the Earth. And if we see an evaluation in 2023, 6 out of 9 boundaries are already crossing the limits. It means we need to have an action in the form of change of our practices, change of our business. She also shared Vision 2050, new agenda for business, which it describes the pathways for 2050 and its 9 elements like people's value, human development, and many others. Just to keep some of them, agriculture, forest, energy, economy, and people's value are some of them. It means whatever interventions we are making in whatever the sectors be, people should be at the center of all the interventions. They should benefit the people. And also we should note that people is plural. It's not only people. There are different heterogeneities within the people in terms of gender, in terms of the economic status, in terms of education level, or from various prospects. And also there are 4 sectors I showed: agriculture, forest, energy, and economy. It means all the sectors for sustainability needs sustainability of the water systems. So when we put all these things together as a message from Professor Serena's lecture, there are interconnections between water, energy, food, and ecosystem, because for achieving Vision 2050, we need 9 elements, and water, energy, food, agriculture, forest, energy, economy are the components of that. Water is the key input for their sustainability, and people should be at the center. So putting them all together, there is a interconnection, And this is interconnection we name as nexus. So today we are talking about nexus of water, energy, food, and ecosystem. Therefore, the contents for today is I will start with understanding the nexus from various perspectives as a very, very generic and introductory lecture, how it evolved the concept of sustainability to the nexus. What does nexus mean? What are their principles? What are barriers to nexus gains? But this lecture will not cover assessment of the nexus because we need a separate 3 hours or for quantifying the understanding the process for quantifying the nexus. Then I will continue with the need identification and nexus course developed in Nepal. That was the key part of the lecture. And then course development methodology we adopted, their learnings from institutionalization within the 2 institutes within our university, and implementation and sustainability considerations. And finally, I will conclude with the 7 pathways, 7 key steps for translating nexus to policy and practice. I will conclude with those messages. I believe many of you have heard the concept of ecological footprint. If not, there is always Professor Google available to all, right? We can Google later on and find what ecological footprint means. It is needed for natural resource management. It basically gives an idea of to what extent we are putting pressure on our natural resources. It basically defines the amount of resource needed by an individual to survive. And this footprint is increasing. An estimate made a few years back, shows that ecological footprint of our current human population is 1.5 Earths worth of resources. That means whatever resource we have in Earth is not adequate to fulfill our needs or our resources requirements. It is projected to increase to 3 Earth by the middle of this century. It means either we need to find another Earth to bring the resources to meet our needs, or we need to change our behavior, our business models and others, so that we can use the resource sustainably in the long run. This means that sustainable use and management of natural resources is a pathway for the future. This is the key message we can get from this trend in ecological footprint. So in terms of sustainability, many concepts emerged over the years in response to growing challenges related to resource management and sustainability. We can go back until 1972, which by that time the discussion on the concept of sustainability emerges. The concept of limit to growth started at that time. Then 1987, famous Brundtland Commission proposed an idea of sustainability, which was adopted by the world leaders in 1992 Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. In 2000, new concept, again, integrated water resource management emerged, which talks about economic efficiency, ecological sustainability, and social equity when we use the water as a resource. Integrated means we need to integrate water with the land resource and other resources available in the hydrological boundary or watershed. This was the key concept of the IWRM. Then later in 2008 to 2011 or so, the Nexus concept emerged, and UNU Flores was one of the mastermind behind this concept. So this is how the concept of sustainability is emerging over the years, and from limit to growth to Nexus, we have seen many things coming across. Limit to growth basically talks about 5 basic factors, which is population growth, agricultural production, natural resources, and industrial productions and pollution are the 5 key limits which may limit our growth in the future. That was predicted in early 1970s by model simulation. And when we compare that concept, that prediction today, they all look very true. Key message of this limit to growth concept is we need to balance consumption with Earth's carrying capacity. This is the only key message extracted from that one. When we came in 2000, the concept of IWRM emerged, as I mentioned, but it has some relationship with the Nexus, and there are differences between IWRM and Nexus as well. This, of course, it talks about integrated concept, but it is criticized as a water focused and a single resource centric because it mainly talks about water, and integration of other sectors is to meet the water needs. Whereas the WEFE Nexus, water, energy, food, ecosystem nexus approach is multi-centric and people-centric. So this has advantage or maybe taken positively by a large number of stakeholders compared to IWRM is this is multi-centric. People from any background can feel this concept is related to us, and it is people-centric, with each sector being treated with equal importance. Nexus may be accelerated by, accepted by a broader set of stakeholders than IWRM, especially those within agriculture, energy, and forestry sector as well. So the Nexus approach builds upon the concept of limit to growth, sustainability, and IWRM to address the interconnected challenges of our key resources, which are water, energy, food, and ecosystem. It acknowledges the interdependency and trade-off between these sectors and seeks synergetic solution for sustainable resource management. The Nexus approach promotes the integration of various sectors, policy domains, and stakeholder perspective in decision-making process. So this is the core concept of the Nexus. It is about synergy between various sectors, various actors, various scales. It is about identifying trade-offs and strategize our actions in a way that we can maximize the synergies and minimize the trade-off. This is the whole crux of the Nexus approach. If we try to see definition of resource nexus, we see multiple ideas. For example, connections, linking the things like idea, process, and object. You also mentioned in the chat box earlier that interconnections, synergies, trade-off among different sectors, actors, peoples, and so on. This is the whole thing coming here. Other concept is number of system elements. We are talking about water and energy, or water, energy, food, and water, energy, food ecosystem, or plus, plus, plus. It also talks about consequences, economical, societal, environmental. It also talks about mercurial nature, which is the volatile nature of the nature without and hybrid concept. It means our natural processes or the resources available with us are very dynamic. They are changing. Whatever things we predict today or we make decision today may need to change in future because of the changing dynamics of the resource base. Perspectives, Nexus also talks about perspective, whether we are talking about analytical perspective or governance perspective, boundary concept, or transdisciplinarity. It also talks about approaches, whether we talk about analytical, sectoral, or system of systems. It means defining Nexus is not that easy. It looks like interconnections and synergy and trade-off is a very high-level terminology, but translating this to practice needs a detailed understanding of this Nexus. So how the concept emerged over the years from even within the Nexus? We can see in this one, it shows the interconnection of water, energy, and food. For example, water is related to food. Why or how? Water is required for irrigation, and from that we produce the food. Similarly, food is required for water, so food is connected to water. For example, use of fertilizer for agriculture production can deteriorate the quality of water. Similarly, if we talk about water and energy, hydropower, cooling of the plants require energy, whereas hydropower cooling of the plants required water, means water for energy. Similarly, processing, distribution, and treatment of various things required energy. If we try to see a link between food and energy, land use, for example, biofuel, it consumes a portion of the land which could otherwise could be used for the food production. If you see energy with the food, pumping, processing, transporting, water, and other things requires energy. So in this way, all these things are interconnected. In terms of ecosystem, whether for generating food or energy or water, we need healthy ecosystem. Therefore, there is an intrinsic link between all these components. Nexus initially started with the two components, water to energy, water to food, energy to food, and so on. Over the period of time, people started to understand that no, all these three components should be connected and should be looked into totality. Then it became three component, WEFE, water, energy, food. In many instances, people are still using WEFE concept. The environment or ecosystem is recently added. As last E is recently added. Why? Because of ecological footprint varies with the country's location and within the country and people. Therefore, ecosystems should also be considered as a part of the Nexus concept. Environmental justice is equally required. Therefore, it should be considered as a part of Nexus concept. And ecosystem, WEFE resources also talks about sustainability, because for sustainable supply of all these resources, healthy ecosystem is a key. With this consideration, the last E in the WEFE was added later in the sequence. And for all the resources, climate is an overarching component because climate can affect food or agriculture system, climate can affect energy system, climate can affect water system, and also, of course, can affect the various perspectives or aspects of the ecosystem too. Therefore, when we talk about nexus, of course, we can see between WEFE, but climate should also be connected, and interlinkage or interaction of the climate with all these components should be given equal priority in understanding the nexus. Now, again, I come to all the colleagues who have joined the webinar. Can you see in this landscape and try to write down what comes to your mind after looking into this landscape? You can use maybe 2 minutes to think and pose or your understanding in the chat box. If you see this one, what comes to your mind? What do you see in this landscape? Okay, some can see layers. Somebody can see soil, water, land. Okay, some could see vertical farming, built up areas, lots of land being used for agriculture, settlement on layers, soil and water conservation terrace, hilly terrain, biota, agriculture and waters. If there are any other things, you may please feel free to share. Terracing. All right, great. Agricultural lands in inland region with agroforestry. What does it mean? Because I understand that we are here from diverse background, starting from the natural resources to the business to the multiple sectors, because that's what I got a sense when I talked earlier in the preparatory session with the organizers. So this is the same thing, right? This photograph, the thing is same, but we are trying to understand, or we prioritize different things based on our prior or maybe prior thinking, or based on our background or knowledge. It means that though we talk about the nexus approach, still it needs to integrate the people or perspectives or policies from different sectors. So we try to see from sectoral lens. Therefore, having a uniform understanding of nexus with the peoples from different background, different sectors, different disciplines, different skills is quite challenging. This gives an insight that when we design our interventions, long-term sustainable development interventions, we need to have the expertise from different backgrounds so that different background can think, okay, from their sectoral perspective, they can think, okay, this is good for my sector. But the other sector people can say, hi, wait for a while. When you do these interventions, it may have negative consequences in my sector. When different type of people come together, talk together, and try to understand each other's perspective, then we can have refined interventions which may try to minimize trade-off and maximize synergy. I'm not telling bringing trade-off to zero. Trade-off basically talks about the negative consequences. We can minimize to an extent possible with an acceptable level of agreement with all the sector. So like you rightly mentioned, there are many things in this landscape, like forest, biodiversity, watershed, biofertilizer, rural and urban settlement, agriculture, food, and so on. This slide will be distributed to all of you later on, so you don't need to write it down. So depending upon our background, we see different things. So it means there is a nexus between different things to make sure this landscape is made sustainable. If we try to see some facts about interconnections, energy to water, 90% of the global power energy generation is water intensive. Water to food, 69% of the global freshwater resources used for agriculture. 30% of the global energy consumption is used for food production and supply. Security of all these resources depends on the health of the ecosystem as a whole. Therefore, Nexus approaches are all about interconnection, like you rightly mentioned in the beginning, interdependency, and interactions between different resources, WEFE resources, and people. People here should be viewed from a gender and social and disability inclusion, ZC, and intersectionality perspective. Intersectionality here refers to, like I mentioned earlier also, people, we should not look only from gender lens, not only from economic status lens, not only from education level lens, not only from geographical distribution lens, but from all the perspective, we should try to overlay each other and try to find actual vulnerable or really targeted people. Sometimes we prioritize, okay, from gender perspective, females should be prioritized. Sometimes we prioritize from caste perspective, okay, this caste should be prioritized. But there could be a risk that if we talk about gender perspective, in the name of the female, highly advantageous female can take advantage out of that. If we try to talk from certain caste, of a highly advantageous person within that caste can take advantage of that priority. So we should always be careful that resources and interventions are targeted to a right set of people. Therefore, Nexus is all about minimizing trade-off and maximizing synergy across resource securities while ensuring integrity of the ecosystem. Again, I'm emphasizing ecosystem here because the base of the entire resources depends on health of the ecosystem. Nexus thinking enables us to move from resource-centric approaches to resource and people-centric approaches. People here need to be considered as plural, as I mentioned earlier, which is disaggregated to conceptualize WEFE Nexus that promotes gender equality and social inclusion. Therefore, Nexus approach is not only about integrating sectors, it is also about integrating actors, integrating people. Therefore, whatever interventions we are making, it should have minimize trade-off, it should have maximized benefits, and people, all types of people, regardless of their gender, regardless of their social status, should be get benefit out of it. That means there should be gender equality and social inclusion should be at the center of the all intervention. This is the spirit of the Nexus approach is. If we talk about principles, there are three major principles which can we extract as a message based on whatever we discussed so far. One is investment to sustain resources. We see earlier that we are being short of the resources. We are already consuming resources equivalent to 1.5 times Earth resources. By middle of the century, it is expected to be 3 times Earth resources. It means we need to invest to sustain our resources, not only for us, but also for our next generation. For this, we need investment in terrestrial as well as aquatic ecosystems and wetlands. We need to prioritize high to the water requirements, like environmental flow of all the like aquatic ecosystems. So this is investment to sustain resource. Also, we need to invest in the conservation of the watershed, because which is the fundamental boundary or the base to sustain our ecosystem services and resources. Therefore, first principle is investment to sustain resources. Second is about efficiency, which is creating more with less, which is resource use efficiency. Intervention that increase water or land productivity while minimizing negative impacts on energy productivity and emissions. This kind of intervention should be prioritized. We should focus on increasing overall resource use efficiency by maximizing synergy and minimizing trade-off. And third principle is accelerating access, integrating the poorest. Sometimes access will get prioritized less. Nexus solution focus on accelerate equitable access and benefits for all sections of the society, including poor. This creates high rates of return in investment in terms of development and environmental sustainability. So it's not a financial return we are talking about, but economic return. There is a difference between financial return and economic return. And many colleagues from business background, or maybe I think bachelor related to business, may understand difference between economic and financial things. So they are the key three principles: investment to sustain resources, protect, conserve watersheds, creating more with less, that is resources efficiency, and accelerating access and integrating poor. These are the three key guiding principles to translate Nexus concepts to the Nexus gains. Nexus gains here refers to the how to translate the concept of Nexus for maximizing the return, at the main time maintaining sustainability of the resource base. But when we talk Nexus, it sounds very convincing, very interesting. When we try to translate this into practice, we found a lot of challenges because there are various barriers to the Nexus gains. One is isolated management. Management of the water, energy, food, and ecosystem in many instances, may not be in all the instances, but in many instances are dealt in isolation without considering their interconnections, because our delivery agency within the government are structured in a way that, okay, water department only talks about delivering water services in farms or maybe in the households. Energy department are structured in a way that they are focused only on enhancing access to energy. Similarly for other sectors, with this structure and isolated management, we can consider this as a barriers to Nexus gains. Second one is related to sectoral silos. Policy programs are designed without coordination and combination across the sectors in many instances again. Lack of consideration of synergy, which is benefits, and trade-offs, which is cost. Absence of economic valuation and holistic analysis of synergy and trade-off in many instances are hindering the adequate political commitments for this concept. Therefore, here comes the value for the participant from the business background, that how to translate the concept of water, energy, food ecosystem in economic sense. Try to quantify benefits, try to quantify costs so that it makes a good sense to the policy decision maker or the resource holders. Other barrier I could see is lack of stakeholder integration. Approaches do not include a diverse range of stakeholders or do not consider how different groups will be impacted by Nexus. And the last barriers I listed is neglect of multiple solutions. One thing we neglect many instances at an individual level or a family level or society level or a national level is we try to find a single solution to a large problem. But our experience has shown that rather than a single solution, single 100% solution, multiple 10 or 20% solution works better. It means we should always try to find multiple solution which may sum up to 100%, so that even if one solution fails, other will still contribute partly, if not 100%. Therefore, we should try to see multiple solutions to a single problem. We should focus on short term and on many instances we are focusing on short term and unsustainable solution, which can consider also as a barrier to Nexus gains. When talking about many concepts about the Nexus, there are lots of things to learn about Nexus. This is the one message we can get, and including its quantification and assessment. But unfortunately, in this lecture, we will not be focusing on quantification. It means Nexus involves the people from diverse range, diverse levels and sectors. For example, a student at a graduate or undergraduate level need to learn Nexus because they are the future leaders and they are the person who try to translate this concept into actual practice, professional practice later on. When there need to be policy coherence, people in decision-making process need to learn, means sensitize the high level of policy decision-making person. Again, the resource allocation are finally decided by politicians. Therefore, politicians also be sensitized in this process. And also in between them, there are practitioners, professionals, right, with several years of experience. Sometimes they are interested in translating the concept into practice, but they are struggling how to do it, how to address the challenge. And therefore, there should also be a course or the curriculum which can really do justice to those professionals who are really interested to translate this concept into practice. Therefore, multiple types of courses are required to make sure our future leaders, future professionals are made ready to deal with the increasing challenges of unsustainable use of resources. This is the key message I can get. Do you have any questions so far? Let me take a couple of questions, if any, before I go to next section. Next section is, of course, about the course development. I try to give a brief overview of what Nexus is and what are the very high-level messages, actually. Do you have any questions? Very quick, maybe a couple of questions, if not all. We have Q&A session later, I can understand that. Any quick questions from anyone? or maybe prospective, even if not question, I could see many professionals, highly professional people also in the link. If they have the maybe different opinions or maybe some sharing, that will also add great value to our discussion. Either maybe using chat box, or if they are allowed to speak, maybe, I don't know, the system allows that or not.
They
Good
cannot,
morning.
they cannot speak unless they are a panelist. Claudel, did you want to ask a question? Otherwise, I think people are also struggling because it takes some time to type. So maybe, Vishnu, if you can give us an idea when you're going to ask questions again, then they can start thinking about their questions and start typing them and cut and paste them later.
All right, then maybe let me continue. If the people have, maybe participants have some question, they can always type here. If I cannot see it, maybe some colleagues, maybe you may just indicate me, okay, there is a question. All right.
Perfect.
Great. Now, we understood that Nexus as a concept is integration among various sectors, actors, peoples, skills, and so on. It sounds good, but there are lots of barriers to translate this into practice. And also the other message I summarize at the end of this first session is, people at different levels, or professionals at different levels, right? From students to the mid-career professionals to the policy decision makers to politicians, they need to be sensitized with the concept to make sure this concept is streamlined in a long run for the perspective, from the perspective of sustainable use and management of the resources. Then to translate this message into practice in Nepal as a part of Nexus Gains initiatives of the CGIAR Center, in which I was also involved, we developed three types of courses in Nepal. So let me explain in the next session about how the need were identified, what kind of courses were developed, and where the institutionalized in a university is really a challenging endeavor. How did we that, and what are our learnings? Let me go in that session. As I mentioned, within our Institute of Engineering, there are many centers, several centers focused on a specific expertise. I used to be a deputy director of Center for Water Resource Studies at that time when we take these initiatives together with CGIAR centers. We partner with Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT, an International Water Management Institute where I used to work before, to develop 3 sets of curriculum for capacity building in WEFE Nexus as a part of CGIAR's Nexus Gain initiative. And all these courses are available online. All the PowerPoints are available online. Maybe if you Google somewhere, you will find it. If you have difficulties, I can share the link. I forgot to put the link in this PowerPoint, or maybe I can put the link and send when I send the final version to all the participants. One was the sensitization course for policy decision makers, which was the half-day course. Other was the a week, like a 5 days effectively course for to offer in a summer or winter school, which we call as professional course. And third type of course was academic course in Tribhuvan University in Nepal. All 3 are formalized already. All these courses are formalized already. So this through a stakeholder consultation process, need for these types of courses for different levels were identified. In terms of institutionalization in a university, at our Institute of Engineering, where I work we have integrated Nexus about 9 hours, like 3/5 of a credit course with an existing course offered at Masters at Water Resource Engineering program. At Institute of Forestry, another institute within our Tribhuvan University, a 3-credit course has already been approved as a common course for all 6 master programs that institute offers. If we try to see a quick glimpse of this master program course, I will not go in detail. There is an understanding of Nexus of 6 hours, system interaction of 6 hours, assessment tools of 9 hours with different types of tools are taught there, Nexus practices of 6 hours, and Nexus future perspective, where Nexus governance, streamlining, addressing bottleneck, monitoring, evaluation, accountability, learning, all these things are integrated. And also there is practice or field study, which consists of group work, assignment on application of Nexus tools like FAO tool and WEFE Nexus 2.0, and 1 to 2 days of field visit where the instructors or professors try to show a practical case, where students will try to visualize the Nexus perspective. From that, they try to present, they will come back and present their ideas, how the Nexus exists in that one, and how that can be translated to practice for Nexus gains. Then the professor will provide feedback to make a better understanding through case study in the classroom. This is how this program is designed. Course development methodology, we focused on co-creations, consultative process with multi-layer consultations. In August to December 2022, we did a extensive literature review through which we identified potential literatures, their preliminary review and draft idea was generated. In September 2022, co-creation write-up was organized where 55 participants, including 22 female from diverse institutions, diverse background joined it. We together brainstorm on potential ideas for inclusion in all three courses. During September to December 2022, based on the ideas generated from in co-creation write-up, we drafted course outline and contents. In 26 December 2022, a stakeholder or expert consultation workshop was organized with the draft courses where future inputs on the draft courses outlines or contents were sought. That workshop was participated by 33 participants, including 9 female. This is a glimpse of the workshop. In March 2022, final course outline was prepared, finalized with the spirit of inputs received in December workshop. Course here refers to the course outline or the syllabus, not the detailed modules of the courses. During May to December 2023, its course outlines were detailed in terms of modules and PowerPoint materials were prepared. Then 2 to 7 January 2024, professional course was piloted virtually. 56 participants, including 17 female, joined in that virtual professional course piloting. May to December 2024, course modules were drafted. And 10 to 11 January 2024, we piloted academic course physically with a master's in water resource engineering class at Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University, with 26 participants, including 3 female. January to April 2024, preparation of final version of the course module were made. And in March 2024, all the things were made final, and 3 credit course in WEFE Nexus was approved as an official course, which is common to all 6 master's program at Institute of Forestry at Tribhuvan University. This is the entire course. It took almost 2 years to materialize these things. Then 9 to 10, 11, after development of after approval of the courses, the worry there was we don't have the faculty oriented well enough to teach the courses. Then to cater for that need, in 9 to 10 April 2024, we implement an orientation session to faculty members. From 10 from Institute of Forestry. There are 3 institutes within the 3 campuses within the Institute of Forestry in Nepal, in different cities. 10 faculty members from different campuses, and 4 faculty members related to energy from Institute of Engineering, and 2 from universities in Pakistan and 2 from Uzbekistan. These altogether 19 faculty members from different countries joined these orientation courses. This was meant for facilitating to the faculty members on the ways of teaching that courses. In 26 July 2024, piloting of sensitization course to policymakers in Kathmandu took place, where 23 high-level policymakers and decision makers, high-level, some member of parliaments, and some were the joint secretary level people from government participated from all the sectors: forestry, energy, agriculture, and water. 7 of them were female. And if we try to see the participants, there are some were from different universities in Nepal, agriculture, forest universities, far western universities, and so on. Different institutions within the Tribhuvan University also, Institute of Forestry and its different centers, Institute of Engineering and different centers within the institute. Participants from Institute of Forestry were there. Different government agencies representing different sectors were there. International institutions were there, like IMI, Alliance for Biodiversity International, ICIMOD were there. Community-based organizations, non-governmental actors on WEFE and all the relevant organizations also participate in the workshop in different stages. key learnings from institutionalization within the Institute of Engineering. Institutionalization here refers to we develop the courses as a part of an initiative, but translating that in as an formal course in an academics is not that easy, especially in our context, because there are a lot different layers of decision-making processes with diverse set of people. We did it successfully, and we have some learning of making them as an official course and academic courses. In terms of Institute of Engineering, as I mentioned earlier, 3/5 of the credits were integrated to an existing course at Masters in Water Resource Engineering program by renaming an existing course to Climate Change, Water Security, and Nexus. A degree of sensitization, what facilitated it? A degree of sensitization of IOE senior management and faculty members was one of the trigger point or maybe a catalyst to make it happen. What we did is we invited senior management of Institute of Engineering like dean, assistant dean, head of subject committee, and water-related faculty members and energy-related faculty members in every consultation event. It means they were aware how it was immersed and what content it covers and what is the value of it to Institute of Engineering. I myself, being a professor there and also the key person who lead this, who would drive this process, I myself briefed them on importance of the Nexus to students, to faculty members in many formal, informal occasions. It really helped a lot to make them understood and help to institutionalize at our institute. Sensitization or exposure to students. As mentioned earlier, we piloted to the existing students at Institute of Engineering. That give a positive message to different students that, okay, this course is quite diverse. And in terms of linking to profession later and while doing professional practice, this kind of diverse understanding or intersectoral understanding really matters. This was the kind of positive message delivered by students to different students in different sections and also the upcoming sessions. It helped a lot to consider this as positively by the management. My representation is key committees like subject committee that recommends course to the approval to IOE faculty board, which is decision-making body within our institute, and academic council of TU, where I'm also the member, where I can convince the others, I can elaborate the essence of this. These things also supported positively in the institutionalization process. In terms of Institute of Forestry, TU, Tribhuvan University, a roadmap of development was like this. Curriculum revisions, committee formation in March, April 2023, to formation of the course and offering in March 2024. In different stages, different consultation process, draft formation, review, and all the processes were followed during this process, and the course revised significantly than what we developed originally as a professional course. And finally, it was included in the syllabus. The process was experts were assigned to detail the courses. National and international experts were paired to ensure the integrated learning. I myself was invited to draft the syllabus together with other international experts. Draft syllabus were further refined with inputs during stakeholder consultation at different levels, and they refined significantly. Course outline was approved by Academic Council and formally offered in March 2024 as an official course in academics. And one cycle is already implemented. In terms of learning at IOF-TU, if we continue, conceptualization of the need was made through various consultative processes within the Institute of Forestry itself. Catalyst, multiple faculty members have heard about Nexus through multiple platforms, including IME. During our initiative, we invited various multiple faculty members in our course development period. So they knew about it. They knew the value of it within their program, and it helped as a catalyst. Syllabus development, I myself, who was leading the initiative, was invited to lead the process, and it was helpful in that aspect. And other professor was from US. After multiple round of revision and consultation, final draft was prepared. The key lessons from here is, having a right set of people who drive these processes really matters to have proper institutionalization within the right setup, the right time. Finally, there is implementation of sustainability considerations based on the learning of one cycle of implementation, especially this academic course. Institutional support is a must, securing long-term commitment from the university and relevant institutions to ensure course becomes a permanent offering, because we have offered, if 2-3 offering people are not interested or faculty members are not interested, it will not become sustainable. So institutional support is required in this one. Curriculum adaptation, regular updates on the curriculum to incorporate emerging trends, new research, and evolving best practices is essential. Capacity building, training faculty members and experts to sustain the teaching quality and integrate innovative teaching methods is required. Partnership, because this involves an concept, and also concepts are emerging, updating over the period. So the institutions and peoples involved in this process across different countries need to partner together to make this course a permanent offering and sustainable in the long run. Enabling environment, a strong regulatory framework and enforcing mechanism is required within the university, and scalability really matters. Exploring opportunities to upscale the course, and also the short train translate into short training, which we already have professional course, are required to generate multiple interest to multiple people from multiple sections of the society. We consider this as a sustainability consideration in a long run. Finally, based on this learning, I propose 7 key steps for translating Nexus to policy and practice. One is identify the entry points. If we cannot identify right set of entry point, it is very hard to get a policy and practice attention. Second is promote dialogue. Third is streamline WEFE Nexus through science policy practice interface, co-design Nexus solution, consideration for multi-front solution, harmonize policy and institutional mechanism, and facilitate for operationalizing the Nexus. So these are the 7-step process we propose for institutionalizing policy and Nexus into policy and practice. In terms of entry point, first is scale. Nexus is relevant in multiple scale, and in the lowest scale, nice Nexus is seen within the family, because we use various types of resources for our consumption, household use. There is a Nexus right at household level. This approach can be applicable to any scale, but focus approach to translate the concept into Nexus gains varies as per scale. At local level, it's more natural and easy to visualize, because decision making is faster at the local level. Entry point 2, apply WEFE lens in natural resource management and policy programs and practice. For that, we need to sensitize the people. Entry point 3, for the next 5 years, sustainable development goal is still in the forefront of all the policy processes from global to national to local level. And climate actions after Paris Agreement in 2015 has been in the central point of many initiatives. Therefore, if we try to build our Nexus interventions with SDGs and climate actions, likelihood for success would be higher. So these 3 I could see as entry point. Promote dialogue. Security of water, energy, food, and ecosystem for the welfare of the humankind is required. But it needs involvement of various sectors like federal government, provincial government, community-based organizations, CBOs, NGOs, private sector, local government, and so on. Therefore, a good and synergetic collaborations among them is required, and that can happen only through promoting dialogue, regular interactions, and so on. Also, we need to promote community of practice to promote dialogue, which means learning is a gradual process. As we all know, our Nexus community of practice can help enhance our collaborative understanding for better resource management. It should be built from the bottom up. Community of practice should be driven by a strong desire to learn and apply the concept in policy and practice. Third step I could see is streamline WEFE Nexus through science policy practice interface. Because streamlining a concept of approach start with generating evidence. Without evidence, nobody is going to believe it. That is science. Then adoption in policy. If there is no policy, it will not integrate into actions and translate into actions, which is the practice. Therefore, streamlining this into all the fronts, policy, science, policy, and practice is required. For this, we need a multi-scalar governance, which means vertical integration, horizontal integration, all type of integrations are required to streamline the concept. Fourth, co-design Nexus solution in consideration of synergies and trade-off, which includes knowledge integration, co-design solutions with an WEFE Nexus at the center, and addressing trade-off. These 3 things need to be talked together by gathering the expertise from different sectors so that everyone understands each other's prospective as well as constant. From that, the win-win solution can be generated. Fifth point is consideration of multi-front solution. As I mentioned earlier, rather than a single 100% solution for a problem, multiple 10, 15, or 20% solution work much better. We need to consider technical or engineering solution, nature-based solutions, governance solutions, ensuring equitable sharing of benefits and risks, market-based solutions, demand-based solutions, and so on. It means we have to uh, try to see the solution from multiple fronts so that even if one doesn't work, other will still contribute to some extent. Sixth, harmonize policies and institutional mechanism. You see, the nexus connects to different sectors. It means different sectoral policies should harmonize to each other, like dialogue in policy development, harmonizing legal framework, deregulation processes, clarity of tenure rights and for research and development, increased stakeholder engagement, and various types of activities might require to harmonize policy and institutional mechanism. This sounds good, but equally challenging as well. For example, in Nepal, as an example I gave to you for your review and just to understand later on, there are various hierarchy of policy. You can see like constitution, acts, regulation, national strategy, and so on. We have given some examples here from the Nepal. So within this context, how to harmonize policies, procedures at different scales in a more coherent way so that all will not contradict to each other and all will contribute to the integrated solution, means maximizing benefits and minimizing trade-offs in all the contexts. That requires a thorough understanding and harmonizing of the policies, programs, and actions at multiple scales and multiple sectors. And finally, facilitate for operationalizing Nexus. As I mentioned multiple times, Nexus concept per se is very nice. It sounds convincing, but translating to practice is challenging for various reasons. One could be like lack of understanding and educate scientific evidence or educate demonstration evidences. And also second thing could be perhaps willingness of the people from different sectors to work together with the interdisciplinary team. That also it's a challenge. We discussed various other bottlenecks already. So how to facilitate, how we can facilitate to operationalize the nexus? There are some ideas I have put forward. First is identify opportunities and bottlenecks for everyone engaged. Everyone means every sector, every scale. Integrate WEFE Nexus in the existing planning process. Of course, it sounds good, challenging, equally, as I mentioned earlier. Ensure participatory process of planning, because engagement of the multiple people means multiple minds can work better than a single mind. Craft coordination and collaboration across sectors and skills, as I mentioned earlier. Activate multi-stakeholder platforms where that facilitates the for sharing the perspective from different sectors, and also the facilitating for streamline them together for developing a shared understanding. And mapping intersectoral committees, assessment of capacity gap in capacity strengthening programs. These are 7 steps. And also like prepare and implement monitoring, evaluation, learning plan, harmonize policy and legal framework, address conflict, activate digital sharing platform, implement risk management strategy, allocate resources in a coordinated way for sectoral plans, and promote investment plan and financing through fourfold 4P model. 4P here, that's important. And also we need to design an intervention, identify intervention areas, and we need intervention from multiple fronts, like from social side, economic side, environmental sides, so that we can think of outcome from the resource security, water, energy, food, equity and justice, sustainable development, resilient ecosystem, effective governance, identification of trade-offs and opportunity, and so on. It means it gives a lot of message in this slide. One is we need intervention in multiple areas, not only in a single area. For example, if we want to secure water for society, ecosystem, community, and all, or sectors and others, we need to make sure that we are using in a sustainable way. We need to see how it affects when we divert water for one sectoral use, what is the impact to other sectors. So that we need to know, one is that. Second is outcomes should be considered from multiple ways. It means that when we design intervention, we should think more broadly. So this is a message we get from here. And solution not only in sectoral, also come from financing solution, governance solution, infrastructure and technology solution. Multiple types of solution could exist there. And 4P model that I mentioned earlier is private, public, public. Third is public people partnership. Fourth is public people private partnership. In many instances, people talk about triple P model, public private partnership. But here the fourth component, people, is also here 4P partnership. So with this, I think with all these 7-step processes, of course, there are many things to be dissected and maybe further detailing might be required. Many of them are still at a conceptual level, but I believe the 7-step processes can help to streamline Nexus into policy and practice and to facilitate operationalization of the Nexus in different programs and actions. With this, I would like to acknowledge the contributors who developed the courses in different period of time. These are the people who were engaged right from the beginning until the implementation. Also, some colleagues like our Soni Baral from the Institute of Forestry, Professor Rajesh Rai, who is also the part of the team, are some of the colleagues also I would like to acknowledge who did a lot of efforts to ensure the course is institutionalized within the Institute of Forestry. With this, I conclude my session for the time being, and I'm really happy to share further thoughts when there are additional questions. Thank you. Serena, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vishnu, and apologies for earlier with the questions. It looks like Claudel had a question. So let's just start with that, and then we can proceed with the other one. So Claudel asked, I don't know if you can see that, so what does a Nexus concept look like in a marine environment?
I'm sorry, okay.
What does a Nexus concept look like in a marine environment?
My apology, my background is not related to coastal and marine, so I may not be able to answer properly to this question. My apology.
Yeah, but I guess it's very similar because you just have different ecosystems when you get to the marine environment, based on what's on land. And then there was also a question, how do we assess the effect of river pollution in a nexus? Maybe from a nexus perspective, river pollution.
What is this? How to address what is that?
Assess. So how do we assess? Yeah.
How do we assess, or what is that? I could not see it here.
Yeah, how do we assess the effect of river pollution in Nexus? So I guess, how do we assess river pollution from a Nexus perspective?
Nexus perspective does not give a single solution, but how the question can be framed better is how the intervention for addressing river pollution can be framed in a Nexus lens. Perhaps that's what the spirit of the question is. You see, river pollutions means from multiple ways, either due to solid waste or due to the maybe wastewater. These are the two primary ways that rivers get polluted, right? So solution for that could be two ways. One is whether we clean the rivers after it get polluted by multiple ways, or we manage to have a clean water or maybe avoid solid waste to dump to the river. There are two ways. So in either way, for example, so there are two ways. The Nexus perspective here could be which one is more economical, environment friendly, and which gives more benefit to the society. For example, if we consider, okay, addressing solid waste is a pathways for the addressing river pollution, whether bringing solid waste, dropping solid waste in the river bank and segregating from there makes more sense, or segregating solid waste right at the source makes sense. Which one is more economical? Which one gives less nuisance to the society? And which one is more environmental friendly? So cost and benefit analysis would be done from that perspective. Also, for example, from segregating to the source or maybe bringing to the river bank and segregating there also involves energy, right? Transportation of the waste from one location to other location also involve energy. So all environment of pollution is related to water. So all water, environment, ecosystem, and energy aspects are associated with that. Therefore, what we need to look into is addressing a problem of river pollution involves multiple front: waters, energy. And from agriculture viewpoint, if we treat this, let's say, we segregate the degradable waste and translate to that to the manure and apply to the food production or maybe agriculture. What is the added benefit out of that? We are minimizing waste and also we are getting benefit out of that. So if we try to see multiple components and try to dissect further potential benefits and potential cost, then this is the whole about Nexus concept is. Similar way can be kept for the applied for the wastewater management as well. And that's my initial response to these questions.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's never a simple perspective. I think that's also what you showed in your slides, and also how many different stakeholders. There was really an impressive list of stakeholders that you got into your course development. So I'm going to move to the question in the chat and not to the one on the Saroj. I'll come to your questions about the course development later, because this one in the chat is from somebody who's studying international relations. And he said you were talking about sensitizing policy and decision makers. And what would you say is the most effective way to convince policy and decision makers or politicians of the importance of sustainability?
That's great. This is a really great question. The difficult thing many people find is to convince the policy decision maker on why should we invest in sustainability initiatives, right? So one simple idea for that could be, if there are 3-4 cases, okay, or interventions or cases, okay, floods are increasing, people death or injured are increasing, agricultural land are maybe degrading, and the associated agricultural production and ecosystem services are lost. If we try to quantify that in a monetary terms, okay, if no action, this is the cost and benefit scenario. If action 1, it involves this activities, these are the cost, and how those losses can be minimized, this is the benefit. Action 2, action 3. If we try to find multiple scenarios with the action, associated cost and benefit, then that gives a clear picture in economic terms that, okay, if we go for action 1, the nation as a whole, public fund will be saved by this much percentage. But there, the important point should come the scale. So sometimes we may not see that benefit in a 2, 3, or 5 years scale. Some of the benefit may come after 25 years, for example. So if we clearly visualize the scale, time scale considerations, associated cost and benefit related to various types of interventions or as a scenario, I think that's the best way to convince to the policymaker. But the challenge here is really putting price or monetary terms for each and every cost and benefit is a challenge. But of course, there are challenges everywhere, right? Even having a meal is challenge. Sometimes we may get suffered, right? But we try to use the best of the available concept. Of course, there are uncertainties exist, and when more information are available, we upgrade them in due course. I think that's the best way to move forward.
So you are saying cost is important, and I guess you mean financial cost, but I think, what about environmental cost? Do you think politicians are ready to talk about environmental cost, not only financial cost?
I think in many instances they are not, primarily because many politicians have a tenure of 4, 5, or whatever number of years. They want to show output within that short period of time. Therefore, entire environmental cost may not be interesting to them. But if we try to maybe separate, okay, environmental cost, economic cost, or whatever the component of the cost is, and even if they are convinced, or we try to convince them, okay, forget about the 100% environmental cost. How about separating or allocating resource for 15% of the environmental cost for this year? That may sound relatively less compared to 100% coverage of environmental cost. So this a gradual approach, I think, might work perhaps better to convince the policy decision makers.
Yeah, I think you are cutting right to the chase of what's important to them. And then also the important issue of time. I mean, so if it's in the next generation, it's not tangible to their term of office. And I guess that's often the challenge. Let's see, Saroj, some questions about...
Yeah, for this
yeah,
good
Saroj,
point.
some questions about the course.
All right, for next generation too, for that only national level initiative would not be enough. For example, Climate Pact, right? 2015 Paris Agreement. That's a global initiative. For the sustainability or next generation related thing, I think global understanding is required. Therefore, there are many global initiatives and agreements, which means for the next generation, which politicians or policymaker at a single country may not be interested from inside by themselves. But if there is a global commitment, they tend to follow that.
I see. Yeah. That's so scale, not only time, but also spatial scale, like you also
Exactly.
showed with your entry points.
Yeah.
Sarosh is saying that it seems that revision and evaluation were made for the course development, and that he believes that there's a need to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the course, so then it can be adjusted with time and needs as they change. So he's asking your opinion and how you are planning to do this, the monitoring and evaluation of the course.
All right, thank you. We developed the course through multiple iterations, like he rightly pointed out. We developed drafts, we piloted it, and based on feedback received, we kind of updated and finalized for the current level. For in terms of evaluation, this is the part of the one of the initiatives. So we did it, and maybe 3, 4, 5 years might be required at least to see how impact it made or it did not make it. So every 4 to 5 years evaluation is required. As of now, we haven't thought of, because resource allocation is not there. But at least I believe for the university level courses, we have their university itself will do a regular evaluation. We are updating the course in regular interval. At that time, it will be evaluated. In terms of professional course, we have the course available online also, but we haven't offered it publicly as a summer or winter school. Perhaps a partnership model, we are willing to do partnership with any institutions to find a win-win solution where we can manage some resources, to invite the participant, to manage the cost of the resource persons, so that we can offer 1 or 2 times in a year as summer or winter course, and see a couple of years of the implementations, and together by looking for some additional resources we can do together. Now this is not our course, this is a public entity, everybody's course, because it is in public domain.
I guess, yeah, it's never a never-ending story. You can always adjust it and develop it and further develop it. And then here's a geographic scale question to you, also from Saroj. What can Nepal contribute to the Nexus knowledge, or what can others learn from Nepal specifically? Similarly, what benefits can Nepal gain, utilize from the theoretical and methodological developments in the Nexus field globally?
That's another great, very practical questions. In the first part, what others can learn from Nepal, this course development initiative. One thing is we have it is in public domain. Most of the contents are applicable globally, but some of the contents are location specific, like the policies, plans, and some of the examples may be location specific. So from this one, maybe other countries may need to customize further if they want to integrate to the academic courses. Perhaps sharing the experiences of how we institutionalize it, because institutionalizing this multidisciplinary course is really challenging at universities. How we did it, what made it workable, those kind of experience sharing, and I mean, could be useful for institutionalization, one thing. Second thing is, in terms of sensitization, we have only done piloting, we haven't implemented yet. So we don't have more learning so far. So, and same for professional course. So in due course, when we have more experience, when we implement together with other agencies, then we'll have some more things to learn. In terms of our diverse geography, we have mountain regions, we have hill regions, we have the plain regions. So we have the nexus relationship with different skills and different diverse geography. But the research or demonstration cases are still lacking. To be honest, I could not find a single case which really demonstrates the assessment of the nexus, quantification of the nexus. So I haven't been able to make so far. We are still looking for some resources. Maybe someday we will do that. If we can have the different diverse geographic location, mountainous context, hill context, and the plain context, maybe that will be interesting to the diverse countries with a diverse set of geographic. There could be learning there. What Nepal learned from methodological development, there are some tools developed by some US universities, and also some other colleagues in Europe or too. Those tools can be customized appropriately for the Nepal context to suit our requirement. For example, if we want to make a policy of, let's say, no import, or maybe reduce the import of food by, let's say, 60% in next 5 years, What does that mean? How many agricultural lands should be available? What should be the intensity of agriculture in those years? These are some few questions. There could be many long list of questions. Then it brings a lot of questions to us. So applying the globally available tool, customizing to our policy questions, and translate that into quantification process to answer the policy question could be the way Nepal learned from already available tools and initiatives globally.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So then let's move on to the next question is more about, I think institutionalization of this course was interesting to me. Also, I liked how you linked this to the prerequisite knowledge of our students. But then this next question is about the interdisciplinary skills that are important to solve real-world WEFE Nexus problems. So people come from many different backgrounds. I guess you have this challenge because you had already 2 institutes. How do you deal with that? How do you put them all on the same page and then help them to have these skills that they can solve problems in the real world? And maybe I'll add my question to this is, I was really intrigued by having these assignments where people go out and do nexus assessments. Maybe you can also share that, how you did that in an interdisciplinary context.
See, as I mentioned earlier, first thing, rather than this policy, regional policy, the maybe next step, maybe tertiary level importance. The primary important is to convince the policymaker we should have evidence. To have evidence, we should have various diverse set of case studies, demonstrated case, where we can see, okay, this was the context, this was the options of interventions available, this is how they were evaluated from nexus lens. Okay, it is positive plus 20% for energy, minus 20% for agriculture, or whatever it is. And based on this evaluation, we decided this action 1, action 2, or action 3, or prioritize them. If we can demonstrate similar kind of cases with evidence, with modeling exercise, with a diverse topography, diverse entry points, then only we will be ready in a position to discuss with the policy in the maybe national or regional context. What I feel based on my last up to around little more than 3 years continuous engagement in Nexus. We have also co-edited a book in Nexus sometime in 2018 or so. It was related to water, energy, food only. Based my altogether maybe nearly 10 years in the Nexus. What I found is convincing demonstrated cases are really lacking. So the first interventions, whoever is interested should focus on developing demonstrated cases where we quantify nexus, justify the value of the nexus. Then only when we have multiple sets and we are ready to discuss with the policymakers, hi, this is the way it works. I think we are far lacking behind to discuss in the regional policy. That's the next tertiary or even fourth fold later. That's my opinion.
Okay. And these cases that were done by the students, do you think they can contribute to these case studies, or they're more tailored towards developing the skills to do case studies or to do assessments?
Yes, they can be done by students. There are a couple of tools available. Some are available publicly, some are not available. I see one group, I haven't been able to contact them, by Professor Motra, Ravi and his team in the US. I forgot the university. I met one of his colleagues when I was in a conference there just in December also. They are contributing significantly in terms of developing tools. If that skills can be translated to students in diverse setting, in your institute, other institute, and maybe let's say at least 10 students in a year can develop, quantify these nexus cases together, we all can get involved as and when required in a meaningful way, that really helps to develop more case study. But that should not be superficial. That's the point. In many instances, things will end up in a superficial way. That should not be superficial.
Yeah. Just the second part of this question was, should there be a regional WEFE policy platform under SARC or BIMSTEC initiatives?
That one I already answered. That's the tertiary importance. First, we need
Okay.
to have an educated case study to discuss on policy. Then only we are ready to discuss about the policy platform. That's my opinion. Of course, things can go in parallel, but to have a meaningful output, we should have something first.
Yes. The next question is rather generic, so I'm not sure that it asks for highlighting researchers till date in this aspect. I guess you have talked about that, and
Yeah, I talked about that. Only one answer is very convincing research on quantifying nexus is really, really lacking. And this is an opportunity to all of us.
yeah. So our doctoral researchers, as you may know, do a lot of research in this regard, looking at different ways and studying the nexus. And I see here's a question: where do you see the nexus in a sustainable e-waste management? I don't know if you have thought about this. Is water part of that?
E-waste, okay. I may not be able to answer in a more meaningful way, but I will try. E-waste, basically related to the electronic waste, right? All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Electronic waste, some instances, and I will say many instances, they are dumped without proper post-processing or maybe proper, dumping. They are dumped without proper environmental considerations. If they are dumped nearby the rivers or maybe nearby lakes or nearby water bodies, I don't know, many instances, their motherboards and many other things might have chemicals attached to that. So that may have implication in terms of water pollution. Water component is there. Second thing is some of the things related to e-waste also contain maybe energy of different sets. There are many of them are reusable. So in terms of minimizing the environmental consequences, if we can minimize whatever is usable, that can be used for energy and that can also be used to minimize the environmental consequences. Ecosystem components come there. So all these analysis might be, I think, appropriate to bring nexus dimension in the e-waste, and all these things, of course, should come in terms of economic analysis of as well as they like not only financial but also environmental economic sense to be integrated there. I may not be able to. I think my answer is not too concrete, perhaps, because I don't have much detailed understanding of the e-waste and its component. But that's a generic framework to address that context, I believe.
Great. Before I conclude, because I think we are at the end of our session and our time and our questions, I would like to ask whether, if you share the presentation with our students, whether we could also maybe you could share the course outline or the syllabus, or is the link to that somewhere available? Is it a public document?
I think university's course may not be available as a public document. I don't know, Institute of Forestry, they might have kept it. I need to check, but I have the syllabus. I can share that. And this
Yeah,
presentation material I can share, of course. Yes, please continue.
yeah, I wouldn't be interested in the details like you explained, but more like the structure and the considerations and maybe
Okay.
the learning outcomes, that kind of thing. Because I think the rest is intellectual property. I understand that that cannot be shared, but a course outline or something.
No, I think all these materials are now already in public domain. I pulled a
Okay,
certain sections of that one. I will share the
okay,
link along with this
yeah,
presentation later on because they are all in public domain.
okay, that's great then. Because I think that fills in a lot of the information about the course. That would be very interesting.
Exactly. And all the
In,
contents may not be in public domain, but I will be sharing this PowerPoint, also the link to all those courses. Then everyone can
okay.
access it. Even the PPT form is available in the public domain.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. And with that, I have to conclude. I want to thank you very much. As you could see, there were lots of questions. I think you showed how complex this topic is. It's really admirable how you got the different stakeholders together. I think it's admirable your perseverance because people sometimes go into a lecture and think, it was prepared yesterday, but this again showed how much thinking goes into this, especially into such a complex topic. So I wish you all the best with your course for the future, and thank you for sharing your time and your presentation with us.